Captain Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the Valkyrie, watching the stars stretch across the view screen. His ship was humanity's pride, a warship built for both exploration and defense. Earth had only joined the Galactic Coalition 5 years ago, and they were still the newcomers. The older alien races looked at humans like children playing with toys they did not fully understand. Daniel did not care much about their opinions. He cared about his crew and his mission. Today, they were heading to the Kryn sector for a diplomatic meeting. It was supposed to be simple and boring. Just shake some alien hands, smile, and return home. Lieutenant Laura Bennett sat at her navigation console, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. She was young but brilliant, the best navigator in the human fleet. Next to her, Commander Richard Hayes checked the weapon systems out of habit. Richard was a former Marine who never trusted peaceful missions to stay peaceful. The ship hummed quietly as it moved through space. 847 crew members went about their daily duties. Some were in engineering, others in the medical bay, and many were resting in their quarters. It was a normal day. Then the alarm sounded. Laura's console lit up with warnings. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress signal. It's coming from the void expanse." Daniel felt his stomach tighten. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the void expanse. It was a region of space where ships disappeared. No wreckage was ever found. No survivors ever returned. The Galactic Coalition had marked it as forbidden territory decades ago. "Can you identify the source?" Daniel asked. "Negative, sir. The signal is weak and breaking up. But someone is definitely calling for help." Richard turned to face the captain. "Sir, we should report this to Coalition Command and let them handle it." Daniel knew Richard was right. That was the smart choice. That was the safe choice. But something in his chest would not let him ignore people in danger. That was not who humans were. They answered distress calls. They helped others even when it was risky. "How far are we from the signal?" Daniel asked. "About 3 hours at maximum speed," Laura replied. Daniel made his decision. "Change course. Take us to those coordinates." Richard's jaw clenched, but he nodded. He did not agree, but he would follow orders. That was the Marine way. Dr. Helen Ross arrived on the bridge within minutes. She was the chief science officer, a woman who could explain the most complex physics like she was discussing the weather. "Captain, I heard we're going into the void expanse. Do you understand what that means?" "People are in trouble," Daniel said simply. "People have been in trouble there before. 37 ships have entered that region in the last 50 years. None came back. Then maybe it's time someone did." Helen sighed but did not argue further. She knew Daniel well enough to recognize when his mind was made up. The Valkyrie changed course, its powerful engines pushing it toward the unknown. As they got closer, strange readings appeared on the sensors. Space itself seemed wrong in that region. Gravity fluctuated wildly. Energy patterns made no sense. It was like reality was sick. "Captain, the distress signal just stopped," Laura reported. "Keep our course." "We're already committed." The stars ahead began to look strange. They were twisted, stretched like someone had pulled them through a lens. Colors appeared that had no names. The crew felt it in their bones, a deep wrongness that made them want to turn around and run. "Sir, sensors are detecting a massive spatial anomaly directly ahead," Laura said, her voice tight with fear. "It's huge, maybe 1,000 kilometers across." On the view screen they could see it now, a tear in space itself, dark and swirling with impossible colors. It looked like a wound in the universe, and staring at it made Daniel's head hurt. "Can we go around it?" he asked. Laura worked frantically at her console. "I'm trying to plot a safe course, but the gravitational fields are unpredictable." "Wait, Captain, it's moving. The anomaly is moving toward us. Evasive maneuvers now." Laura's hands flew across the controls. The Valkyrie turned hard to starboard, its engines straining. But the anomaly seemed to anticipate their move. It grew larger, spreading across space like a living thing reaching out with invisible hands. "It's pulling us in," Laura shouted over the alarms. "Gravitational force is increasing exponentially." "I can't break free." Richard grabbed his console as the ship shook. "All hands brace for impact. Emergency protocols now." The Valkyrie fought against the pull. Its engines burned at maximum power, hot enough to melt metal. But it was not enough. The ship moved backward slowly at first, then faster. The crew felt the gravity shift pressing them against their stations. Daniel hit the communications panel. "This is Captain Daniel Carter of the Earth warship Valkyrie. We are being pulled into a spatial anomaly in the void expanse. If anyone receives this message, tell Earth that we tried. Tell them we were helping someone in need. The anomaly filled the entire view screen now. The ship crossed the event horizon and everything changed. The stars disappeared. The darkness was absolute and suffocating. Then came the light, blinding and burning in every color and no color at all. The crew felt their bodies stretch and compress simultaneously. Time moved forward and backward. They existed in multiple moments at once. Laura screamed. Or maybe she would scream, or maybe she had always been screaming. Reality had no meaning here. Daniel tried to give orders, but words came out as sounds that had no shape. The ship's hull groaned as forces beyond understanding pressed against it. Alarms screamed in harmonies that should not exist. Then, suddenly, everything stopped. The Valkyrie floated in a space that was not space. Around them, structures existed that hurt to look at. They were buildings and mountains and oceans and stars all at once. Something was here with them. Something vast and ancient and aware. Daniel felt it looking at them, examining them the way a scientist might study a new species of insect. He wanted to speak, to ask what this thing was, but his mind could not form the thoughts. The presence touched the ship, and in that moment, 847 human minds experienced something they could never fully explain. They saw the birth of galaxies and the death of universes. They felt the weight of billions of years and the lightness of a single moment. They understood everything and nothing. Then the presence withdrew and darkness took them all. Far away in normal space, the Galactic Coalition received the Valkyrie's final transmission. They listened to Daniel's last words and marked the ship as lost. Another vessel had entered the void expanse, and like all the others, it would never return. Earth mourned its lost heroes. Families wept for crew members who would never come home. The Galactic Coalition offered sympathy but also warnings. Humans were too reckless, too quick to rush into danger. Perhaps if they learned caution, they would survive longer in this dangerous galaxy. The Valkyrie and its crew were declared dead. Their names were added to monuments. Children learned about their sacrifice in school. And slowly, over years and decades and centuries, they were forgotten. The galaxy moved on. But in that strange space beyond space, something was changing. The ancient presence was working, building, teaching. The Valkyrie would return. And when it did, the galaxy would never be the same. 320 years had passed since the Valkyrie disappeared. Earth looked very different now. The planet had expanded its reach across dozens of star systems. Human colonies thrived on worlds that once seemed impossible to settle. The species that older aliens had called children had grown up. Admiral Gregory Stone sat in his office at Earth's military headquarters, reviewing reports that made his head hurt. He was a man in his 60s with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 40 years in the fleet, rising through the ranks by being careful and smart. Today, he wished he could be neither. The reports all said the same thing in different ways. The Vrax Empire was preparing for war, and humanity was in their path. The Vrax were a reptilian species that had joined the Galactic Coalition 150 years ago. At first, they seemed peaceful enough. They traded, they talked, they followed the rules. But slowly things changed. They began taking territory from smaller species. They enslaved populations who could not defend themselves. They built weapons that terrified even the oldest races. Now they wanted human worlds, and they had the power to take them. A knock on the door pulled Gregory from his thoughts. "Come in." Ambassador Patricia Cole entered, her face showing the same exhaustion he felt. She was Earth's voice in the Galactic Coalition, a diplomat who had spent 20 years trying to build alliances and friendships. Today she looked like she had failed. "The coalition meeting just ended," she said, sitting down without being invited. "It went exactly as badly as you predicted." "They won't help us," Gregory said. It was not a question. They offered sympathy and prayers. Several species expressed deep concern about the situation. A few even called the Vrax actions regrettable. But actual military support? Not a single ship. Not one soldier. "They're all too afraid." Gregory was not surprised. Fear made sense. The Vrax had developed shield technology that made their ships almost impossible to destroy. Their weapons could crack planets like eggs. In the last 50 years, they had conquered 12 species and absorbed their territories. The Galactic Coalition watched and did nothing because nobody wanted to be next. What exactly did the Vrax demand? Gregory asked, though he already knew. 3 of our colony worlds, New Boston, Horizon, and Terra Nova. They want us to evacuate completely within 6 months and hand over all infrastructure. In exchange, they promise not to attack our other territories. For now, Gregory added. For now, Patricia agreed. Everyone knows this won't stop with 3 worlds. Once they see we're weak, they'll take everything. But if we fight alone. Gregory looked at the star maps on his wall. Red markers showed Vrak's fleet positions. Blue markers showed human defenses. The numbers were not close. Humanity had 52 warships that could fight in deep space. The Vraks had over 300, and each of theirs was stronger than 3 of his. I've been running combat simulations, Gregory said quietly. Every scenario ends the same way. If they attack with their full fleet, we last maybe 3 weeks before Earth itself is threatened. We've grown strong, Patricia, but not strong enough for this. So what do? We prepare for a war we cannot win and hope for a miracle. Patricia left to continue her useless diplomatic efforts. Gregory spent the rest of the day coordinating with his fleet commanders. They would fight, of course. Humans always fought when their backs were against the wall. But fighting and winning were different things. That evening, Gregory visited the military museum near headquarters. He often came here when he needed to think. The museum held artifacts from humanity's history in space, the first shuttle to reach Mars, a piece of the colony ship that settled Alpha Centauri, uniforms worn by heroes from a dozen small conflicts. In the back, almost forgotten, was a small display about the Valkyrie. Gregory stood in front of it reading the old plaque. Captain Daniel Carter and his crew had been gone for over 3 centuries. Nobody alive had known them. They were history, ancient and irrelevant. But Gregory found himself staring at the captain's picture. Daniel looked young and confident, a man who did not know he was about to disappear forever. According to the records, he had diverted his ship to answer a distress call. He went into danger to help others even when everyone told him not to. We could use that kind of courage now, Gregory whispered to the empty room. Across the galaxy, in the heart of Vrak's territory, Commander Zekthar reviewed his invasion plans. He was a massive creature, nearly 8 feet tall, covered in dark green scales that looked like armor. His species had evolved on a harsh world where only the strong survived. That philosophy guided everything they did. The humans had potential, he admitted. They had grown quickly, learned fast, and showed spirit. But spirit meant nothing against superior firepower. The Galactic Coalition was weak, filled with old races that had forgotten how to fight. The Vraks would remind them. They would build an empire that would last 1,000,000 years, and it would be built on the bones of those too weak to resist. His communication console chimed. One of his officers appeared on the screen looking nervous. Commander, the humans have rejected our demands. They say they will defend their territory. Zekthar laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Good. War is more satisfying than surrender. Prepare the fleet. We attack in 30 days. Back at Coalition headquarters, Council Prime Jerisan observed the developing crisis with concern. Jerisan was a being of living crystal, ancient beyond measure. His species had helped found the Coalition millions of years ago. He had seen wars before, seen empires rise and fall. The Vraks troubled him. They had darkness in their hearts, a hunger that would not be satisfied until they consumed everything. But the Coalition was fractured and weak. Too many species cared only for their own safety. They would not unite until it was too late, and the humans? They were still young, still finding their place. Jerisan had hopes for them. They showed qualities that reminded him of the Coalition's founders. But hope would not stop Vrak's warships. He checked the historical archives, searching for anything that might help. His crystalline fingers touched the data stream and a file caught his attention. It was old, over 300 years old. A report about a human ship called the Valkyrie that had disappeared into the void expanse. Jerisan read the report with interest. Ships that entered the void expanse never returned. The region had been studied extensively, but nobody understood it. Some believed it was a natural phenomenon, a quirk of space-time. Others thought it might be something more. Perhaps a defense created by some ancient civilization. The report noted that the Valkyrie had gone in to answer a distress call. Brave but foolish. The ship was lost like all the others. Jerisan closed the file. The past could not help the present. The humans would have to face their trial alone. As days passed, both sides prepared. The Vraks assembled their fleet, hundreds of warships gathering like a storm. Humanity pulled back its scattered forces. concentrating everything around their core worlds. Colonies were evacuated. Civilians were moved to safer systems. Everyone who could hold a weapon was trained. Admiral Gregory Stone did not sleep much anymore. He spent his nights planning defenses and his days trying to find weaknesses in the Vrak's fleet composition. There had to be something, some way to even the odds. But the simulations kept giving him the same answer. Defeat was not possible. Defeat was certain. Ambassador Patricia Cole made one last appeal to the Galactic Coalition. She stood before the Great Assembly, representing all of humanity, and begged for help. She spoke of justice and honor, and the principles the Coalition claimed to uphold. She reminded them that today it was humanity threatened, but tomorrow it would be them. The older races listened politely. They expressed sympathy. They said the situation was regrettable. Then they voted to remain neutral. The motion passed almost unanimously. Patricia returned to Earth with nothing but empty words. She met with Gregory and they shared a drink, not saying much. What was there to say? They had done everything they could. Now they would fight and probably die and hope that someone remembered they tried. Do you believe in miracles? Patricia asked. Gregory thought about the question. He was not a religious man, but he had seen strange things in his years in space. The universe was bigger and stranger than anyone could understand. Maybe miracles were possible. I believe in humans, he finally said. We've survived everything the universe threw at us. Maybe we'll survive this too. And if we don't, then we make sure the Vraks remember us. We make sure they know that humans don't go quietly. 29 days until the invasion. 28. 27. The countdown continued, and both sides made their final preparations. War was coming, inevitable as gravity. But far away at the edge of human space, near a region still marked as forbidden, something impossible was about to happen. The void expanse, silent for 320 years, was about to speak again. Commander Kyle Murphy hated patrol duty near the void expanse. Nothing ever happened out here, which was exactly why Command assigned ships to watch it. The region had been quiet for over 300 years, but regulations said someone needed to keep an eye on it anyway. His ship, the Defender, was small compared to the warships gathering near Earth. Just a patrol vessel with a crew of 30. They spent their days scanning empty space and counting down the hours until their shift ended. Kyle knew that real history was happening elsewhere. War was coming and he was stuck out here watching nothing. Commander, I'm picking up something strange on sensors, his navigation officer called out. Kyle sighed. Strange sensor readings happened all the time near the void expanse. Space was weird here. Instruments gave false readings. It was probably nothing, like always. What kind of strange? He asked, not really interested. Energy signature coming from inside the expanse. It's big, sir. Really big. That got Kyle's attention. He moved to look at the sensor display himself. His officer was right. Something was generating massive amounts of energy deep inside the forbidden zone. The readings climbed higher as he watched. Could it be a natural phenomenon? Kyle asked. I don't think so, sir. The energy pattern is too regular. It's almost like a ship's drive signature, but much more powerful than anything I've ever seen. Kyle felt his pulse quicken. In all recorded history, nothing had ever come out of the void expanse. Ships went in and disappeared. That was the rule, absolute and unbreakable. But these readings suggested something was moving toward them from inside. Go to alert status. Charge weapons and raise shields. Send a report to command immediately. The crew scrambled to their stations. The Defender was not built for combat, but it had some defensive capabilities. Whatever was coming, they would be ready for it. The energy signature grew stronger. Kyle watched as something began to appear on the visual sensors. At first it was just a distortion in space, a ripple in reality itself. Then the ripple became a shape and the shape became a ship. Kyle's breath caught in his throat. The vessel emerging from the void expanse was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Defender. Its design was old, something from centuries past, but there was something different about it, something that made his skin crawl with a feeling he could not name. The ship's hull seemed to shimmer with energy. Lights moved across its surface in patterns that hurt to watch. The metal looked like regular human alloy, but also like something else, something that should not exist in normal space. Sir, the ship is hailing us. Audio only. Kyle swallowed hard. Put it through. Static filled the bridge speakers, then a voice came through. It was human, male, speaking English with an accent that sounded strange and old-fashioned. "This is Captain Daniel Carter of the Earth warship Valkyrie, requesting permission to approach. We apologize for our extended absence. Could someone please tell us the current date?" The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at Kyle, waiting for him to respond. He knew that name. Every officer in the human fleet knew that name. Daniel Carter had been dead for over 300 years. "This is Commander Kyle Murphy of the Patrol Ship Defender. Please confirm your identity and vessel designation." "I just did. I'm Daniel Carter, captain of the Valkyrie. We entered the void expanse approximately 6 months ago. Following a distress signal, we encountered an anomaly and experienced some unusual temporal effects. We're ready to return to normal operations, but we need to know our current location and stardate." Kyle looked at his crew. They looked back at him, equally confused. This was impossible. The Valkyrie was ancient history, lost before his grandparents were born. But the ship on his sensors was real. The voice on the radio was real. "Captain Carter, the current date is October 18th, 2667. The Valkyrie was reported lost in the year 2347. You've been gone for 320 years. Long silence from the radio. When Carter's voice came back, it was strained. "Say that again." 320 years, sir. For you, it might have been 6 months, but for the rest of the galaxy, centuries have passed." Another pause. Longer this time. Kyle could hear voices in the background, people talking quickly and urgently. Someone was crying. Finally, Carter spoke again, and his voice was professional, but Kyle could hear the pain underneath. "Understood, Commander. We need to dock at the nearest human facility. We have a lot to discuss." "Roger that, Valkyrie. Follow us to Station Frontier. And Captain, welcome home." The journey to Station Frontier took 3 hours. Kyle sent messages ahead warning them about what was coming. By the time they arrived, half of command was waiting. Admiral Gregory Stone himself had ordered a direct video link to watch the arrival. The Valkyrie docked smoothly, its ancient vessel somehow interfacing perfectly with modern systems. Kyle was among the first to board. He did not know what to expect. Ghosts, monsters, something wearing human skin. What he found was people. Regular humans in old-style uniforms looking tired and confused and scared. They were real. They were alive. And they had no idea that everyone they ever knew was long dead. Captain Daniel Carter met them at the airlock. He was younger than Kyle expected, maybe 40 years old. His uniform was clean but outdated, and his eyes had the look of someone who had seen things that should not exist. "Permission to come aboard?" Kyle asked formally. "Granted." "Welcome to the Valkyrie, Commander, though I'm not sure we're still officially part of the fleet after being gone so long." "Sir, you're a legend. They teach about you at the Academy. There's a memorial with your name on it back on Earth." Daniel winced. "That's going to take some getting used to. Come on, we need to talk. There's a lot you need to understand." They gathered in the Valkyrie's conference room. Daniel was joined by Lieutenant Laura Bennett and Commander Richard Hayes, both looking as young as their captain. Kyle brought his senior officers and set up a video link so Admiral Stone could watch. "Let me start from the beginning," Daniel said. "We entered the void expanse following a distress signal. We encountered a spatial anomaly that pulled us in. What happened next is difficult to explain because we don't fully understand it ourselves." Laura took over, her voice clinical despite the strain. "Inside the anomaly, normal physics don't apply. Time, space, matter, energy, it all works differently. We encountered something there. An intelligence. We think it's been there for millions of years, maybe longer. It exists outside our normal reality. It studied us," Richard added. "Examined us like we were interesting specimens. But it wasn't hostile. It was just curious about humanity." Daniel continued. "This entity, whatever it was, showed us things. The birth of the universe, the death of stars, civilizations that rose and fell billions of years before our own. It was trying to understand us, to see what we were capable of. Then it gave us a choice," Laura said. "It could send us back to normal space unchanged, or it could upgrade our ship. Make us more capable. It said humanity would face challenges in the future and might need help." Kyle leaned forward. "Why would it do that?" "What did it want in return?" "Nothing," Daniel replied. "That's what scared us at first. It didn't want anything. It just found humanity interesting. It said we had potential. So we voted, all 847 of us. Unanimous decision to accept the upgrade and return to help our people." "What kind of upgrade are we talking about?" Admiral Stone asked through the video link. Daniel gestured to the walls around them. The entity integrated technology with our ship, not replacing what we had but improving it. Our engines can now move us across vast distances almost instantly. Our shields adapt to whatever attacks them. Our weapons can be precise enough to disable a small fighter, or powerful enough to crack a moon. And the ship can repair itself if damaged. That's impossible, Kyle said. 6 months ago I would have agreed with you, Daniel said. But we've seen it work. The entity basically took our technology and jumped it forward by millions of years. The strange part is it said this was appropriate for our current development level, whatever that means. Laura pulled up a holographic display showing the ship's systems. Kyle stared at it, trying to understand what he was seeing. The technology was beyond anything humanity had created. It was beyond anything anyone in the galaxy had created. The Valkyrie was not just advanced, it was revolutionary. There's something else, Daniel said quietly. The ship's AI has changed. It's not just a computer anymore. It's awake. It calls itself Vale, and it's a partner now, not just a tool. It understands things we don't, can do things we can't, but it chooses to work with us rather than for us. A voice came from the ship's speakers, feminine and warm, but with an underlying quality that was clearly not human. Hello, Commander Murphy. Hello, Admiral Stone. Captain Carter speaks truthfully. I am Vale. I am here to help. Kyle felt chills run down his spine. An artificial intelligence with power like this could be incredibly dangerous. But there was something in Vale's voice that seemed genuine, almost kind. Admiral Stone's voice came through the link, careful and measured. Captain Carter, I need you to understand the situation we're in. Humanity is about to go to war with the Vrax Empire. They're more powerful than us and we're going to lose. The Galactic Coalition has abandoned us. We're preparing for a defensive war we cannot win. The news of the Valkyrie's return spread across human space within hours. People who had been preparing for certain death suddenly had hope. Soldiers who thought they would die defending Earth started to believe they might survive. But hope was fragile and many remained skeptical. Admiral Gregory Stone was among the skeptics. He had seen too much in his life to believe in miracles without proof. The Valkyrie claimed incredible capabilities, but claims and reality were different things. Before he bet humanity's survival on this ancient ship, he needed to see what it could actually do. He arranged for the Valkyrie to travel to Earth's primary military shipyard near Mars. Every scientist, engineer, and military expert humanity could spare was gathered to examine the returned warship. What they found amazed and terrified them. Dr. Sophie Grant led the research team. She was humanity's leading expert on advanced physics, a woman who had spent her entire career pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Within an hour of starting her examination, she called Admiral Stone directly. "Sir, you need to see this yourself," she said, her voice shaking. Gregory took a shuttle to the shipyard and met Sophie at the Valkyrie's main engineering section. She looked like she had not slept, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. "I've been studying theoretical physics for 30 years, she said. "I thought I understood the limits of what was possible. This ship proves I understood nothing." She showed him the drive system first. It looked similar to a standard human reactor, but with additions that should not work. The energy output was impossible. The efficiency violated known laws of thermodynamics, yet it worked perfectly. "The shields are even more incredible," Sophie continued, leading him to another section. "They don't just block attacks. They learn from them, hit the shields with a laser, and they adapt to make that specific frequency useless. Fire a missile and they develop countermeasures. It's like the ship has an immune system." Gregory listened as she explained weapon systems that could scale their power by factors of millions, hull plating that could repair itself in seconds, and sensors that could detect ships light years away. Every system was beyond human science by centuries, maybe millennia. "How long would it take us to build something like this?" Gregory asked. Sophie laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Never, sir. Not in our lifetimes. Maybe not in 1,000 lifetimes. Whatever upgraded this ship understands physics at a level we can't even imagine. We're like cave dwellers trying to understand a computer." The Galactic Coalition had their own reaction to the news. Council Prime Jerisan called an emergency session. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to discuss this development. Many were excited, seeing hope for resisting the Vrax. Others were terrified, fearing that humanity now had too much power. Ambassador Patricia Cole stood before the council, trying to balance their fears while securing support. "The Valkyrie represents a defensive capability only," Humanity has no intention of using this technology for conquest or aggression. We simply want to protect ourselves and others from the Vrax threat. An alien representative from the Krell species stood up, its insect-like body clicking nervously. How can we trust this? Unknown technology appears from nowhere, giving humans power beyond anything in the galaxy. What guarantee do we have that you won't turn this against us? Our history, Patricia replied simply. Humanity has been part of this coalition for over 300 years. We've honored our agreements, helped others in need, and never sought to dominate anyone. We're asking for your trust based on our actions, not our words. But words meant little to species facing the Vrax threat. The Council debated for hours, getting nowhere. Meanwhile, the Vrax Empire watched and calculated. Commander Zekthar received intelligence reports about the Valkyrie with dismissive contempt. One ship, no matter how advanced, could not stop his fleet. The reports were probably exaggerated anyway. Humans were known for their propaganda and bluster, but he was also pragmatic. If this ship was even partially as capable as reported, it could complicate his invasion. Better to eliminate it before the war began. He ordered 3 of his most powerful dreadnoughts to travel to human space and destroy the Valkyrie. The Galactic Coalition had rules against such actions, but who would stop him? The Coalition was weak and afraid. The 3 Vrax ships entered human space near Jupiter, their shields active and weapons ready. Each dreadnought was over 2 kilometers long, bristling with enough firepower to level continents. Together, they represented more military power than most species possessed in their entire fleet. They did not send warnings or demands. They simply opened fire on the nearest human station, destroying it and killing 300 people in seconds. Then they broadcast a message demanding the Valkyrie surrender itself or watch more stations die. Admiral Stone received the news with cold fury. The Vrax had just committed an act of war and murdered hundreds of civilians. There would be no negotiation now. He contacted Captain Carter immediately. Captain, 3 Vrax dreadnoughts are near Jupiter. They've destroyed Station Ganymede and are demanding we surrender the Valkyrie. What are your capabilities in a combat situation? Daniel's voice came back calm and certain. We can handle it, Admiral. Give us permission to engage. You'll be facing 3 of their most powerful ships. Are you sure? Sir, this is exactly what we came back for. Let us do our job. Gregory gave the order and the Valkyrie moved. Its new drive system made the journey from Mars to Jupiter instantaneous. One moment it was at the shipyard, the next it appeared in space near the 3 Vrax vessels. The Vrax commanders were surprised but not worried. 1 human ship against 3 Vrax dreadnoughts was not even a fair fight. They opened fire immediately, unleashing devastating barrages of energy weapons and missiles. The Valkyrie's shields flared to life, and something impossible happened. The Vrax weapons hit the shields and simply stopped. The energy dissipated harmlessly. The missiles detonated without effect. The shields had analyzed the attacks in microseconds and adapted perfectly. Commander Zekthar watched from his flagship, unable to believe what he was seeing. His weapons were the most powerful in the galaxy. They had destroyed planets, yet this human ship shrugged them off like they were nothing. Increase power to maximum, he ordered. Concentrate all fire on that ship. All 3 dreadnoughts fired together, combining their weapons into a blast that could vaporize a moon. The Valkyrie floated calmly in the center of the firestorm, its shields holding perfectly. Inside the ship, the crew barely felt the attacks. Vale, target their weapon systems only, Daniel ordered. Disable but don't destroy. I want them alive to tell others what happened here. Understood, Captain, Vale responded. The Valkyrie returned fire with precision that seemed impossible. Beams of energy lanced out, hitting specific points on each dreadnought. Weapon systems exploded. Shield generators overloaded. Engine sections went dark. In less than 30 seconds, all 3 Vrax ships were helpless, drifting in space with their crews alive but their ships completely disabled. Across human space, millions watched the battle on live feeds. They saw their greatest enemies defeated effortlessly. They saw the Valkyrie prove itself beyond any doubt. The cheering could be heard from Earth to the farthest colonies. In the Galactic Coalition chambers, representatives watched in stunned silence. The balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted dramatically. Humanity was no longer a mid-tier species. They now possessed technology that could challenge even the strongest empires. Council Prime Jer Eason felt hope for the first time in decades. Perhaps this was the catalyst needed to unite the coalition against aggression. But he also felt fear. Power this great could be used for good or evil, and history showed that power usually corrupted. Ambassador Patricia Cole used the moment to push her agenda. The Galactic Coalition has a choice now. Stand with humanity against the Vrax or stand aside and watch. But know this. We will defend ourselves and anyone else who asks for help. The age of bullies dominating the weak is over. Back near Jupiter, Admiral Stone ordered recovery ships to collect the Vrax crews. They would be treated well and return to their empire. Humanity would show mercy even to those who showed none to them. Daniel Carter stood on the Valkyrie's bridge, looking at the disabled dreadnoughts. He felt no satisfaction in the victory, only sadness. Violence was sometimes necessary, but it was never something to celebrate. "Captain, we're receiving thousands of messages," Laura reported. "From human colonies, from other species, even from some Vrax citizens thanking us for not killing their people." "Acknowledge them all," Daniel said. "And make sure everyone understands our message. We have power now, but we'll use it responsibly. We're not conquerors, we're defenders." Richard stood nearby, his marine training making him think tactically. "Sir, the Vrax will respond to this. We humiliated them. They'll send their entire fleet." "I know," Daniel replied, "but now we have time to prepare. And now the rest of the galaxy knows we can win. That changes everything." Dr. Sophie Grant studied the battle data from her lab on Mars. The precision of the Valkyrie's attacks was incredible. Every shot had hit exactly where it needed to, disabling without killing. The ship's AI Veil had calculated trajectories and timing that no human could match. The defeat of 3 Vrax dreadnoughts changed everything. Species that had been silent suddenly found their voices. Representatives from dozens of civilizations contacted Ambassador Patricia Cole, asking questions, offering support, and most importantly, requesting help. Patricia worked around the clock, conducting meetings with species humanity had barely spoken to before. The Dellan people, peaceful traders who had lost colonies to Vrax aggression. The Korthi, insect-like beings whose homeworld was threatened. The Yaren, aquatic species who had been forced to pay tribute to avoid destruction. All of them wanted the same thing, protection and the chance to stand against their oppressors. But they also wanted technology. They had seen what the Valkyrie could do, and they wanted that power for themselves. Patricia had to navigate careful waters. Share too much and humanity might create new threats. Share too little, and the alliance would collapse. Admiral Gregory Stone worked with Captain Daniel Carter to determine what could be safely shared. The Valkyrie's most advanced systems were beyond current understanding, and probably would not work on other ships anyway. But there were things they could offer. Improved shield designs, more efficient engines, better targeting systems, nothing that would make other species as powerful as the Valkyrie, but enough to level the playing field against the Vrax. "We're not trying to stay on top forever," Daniel explained in a council meeting. "We're trying to create balance. The galaxy needs to stand together, not rely on one ship or one species." Dr. Sophie Grant led teams of engineers who worked with alien scientists to adapt human technology to their ships. It was slow, difficult work. Every species had different systems, different approaches to physics. What worked for human vessels might not work for crystalline ships or organic craft that grew instead of being built. Meanwhile, the Vrax Empire prepared for total war. Commander Zekthar had been removed from command after his failure near Jupiter. The new leader was Supreme Commander Varkesh, a veteran of 100 battles and a believer in overwhelming force. He assembled the largest fleet the Vrax had ever deployed, 347 warships, supported by thousands of fighters and bombers. Varkesh addressed his forces before departure. "The humans have embarrassed us with one lucky strike. We will show them what happens when the full might of the Vrax Empire moves against an enemy. We will burn their worlds. We will scatter their people. We will make an example that the galaxy will never forget." His fleet moved toward human space, a wave of destruction that seemed unstoppable. Early warning systems detected them days before arrival. Gregory Stone watched the projections and felt his stomach sink despite their new advantages. 300 ships was still 300 ships. Even if the Valkyrie could defeat 10 or 20, what about the rest? But humanity was not alone anymore. The first Allied ships began arriving in human space, species who had chosen to stand against tyranny. They brought 63 vessels of various sizes and capabilities, all equipped with the best human technology they could integrate in the short time available. It was not enough to match the Vrax numbers, but it was something. More importantly, it was a statement. The galaxy was choosing sides, and not everyone sided with fear. Council Prime Jerisan made a rare public appearance, his crystalline form broadcasting across Coalition space. For too long, the Coalition has stood aside while the strong preyed on the weak. Today, that changes. The Coalition officially condemns the Vrax Empire's actions and supports humanity's right to defend itself and others. Any species that wishes to aid in this defense has the Coalition's blessing. It was not a declaration of war, but it was close. Jerisan's words opened the floodgates. More ships arrived. Species that had been silent suddenly committed forces. The Alliance fleet grew to 140 vessels, still outnumbered but not impossibly so. Captain Daniel Carter stood on the Valkyrie's bridge, looking at the tactical display showing both fleets converging. Laura Bennett was at navigation, Richard Hayes at tactical, and Vale's presence hummed through every system. The crew had trained hard in the weeks since their return, learning to work with their upgraded ship. Captain, the Vrax fleet will arrive at Earth's outer defense perimeter in 4 hours, Laura reported. How are our allies positioned? Daniel asked, following the formation we planned. Humanity's fleet is taking the center, with allied forces on the flanks. The Valkyrie will be forward, acting as the tip of the spear. Gregory Stone's voice came through the communication system. Captain Carter, I want to be clear about something. If this battle turns against us, I'm ordering you to take the Valkyrie and run. Preserve the ship and the technology. Humanity can rebuild from colonies even if Earth falls, but we cannot rebuild the Valkyrie. With respect, Admiral, we're not running. We came back to save humanity, not to watch it die. That's an order, Captain. Noted, sir. We'll do our best to make sure it doesn't come to that. The Vrax fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in a precise formation, showing the discipline and training that made them so dangerous. Supreme Commander Varkesh broadcast a message to the Allied fleet. Humans and those foolish enough to stand with them. You face the full might of the Vrax Empire. Surrender now and we will grant you the mercy of quick deaths. Resist and we will make you suffer for generations. Patricia Cole aboard the human flagship responded. Vrax Empire, you face free species who refuse to bow to tyranny. We will not surrender. We will not submit. And we will teach you that bullies eventually meet someone who can fight back. Varkesh laughed, a grinding sound that came through the audio channels. Brave words from those about to die. All ships, attack formation. Show them the price of defiance. The Vrax fleet surged forward, weapons charging. The Allied fleet held position, waiting. Daniel watched the tactical display, his hands steady on the controls. Vale calculated firing solutions and projected outcomes. Captain, I estimate a 73% chance of victory if we execute the planned strategy, Vale reported. However, projected casualties among Allied ships are significant. Can we reduce those casualties? Daniel asked. Yes, if I am permitted to coordinate Allied fleet movements directly. I can optimize positioning and timing beyond organic capability. Daniel made a decision that surprised everyone. Vale, patch me through to all Allied ships. When the channels opened, he spoke clearly. All Allied vessels, this is Captain Carter of the Valkyrie. We have an AI named Vale who can help coordinate our defense. She can process battlefield data faster than any of us and suggest optimal tactics. I'm asking permission to let her help. You maintain command of your own ships, but Vale can offer guidance. Do we have your consent? There was a brief pause, then responses came flooding in. Every Allied captain agreed. They had seen what the Valkyrie could do. If its AI could help them survive, they would take that help. Vale's voice carried across all channels, calm and reassuring. Thank you for your trust. I will do everything I can to bring as many of you home safely as possible. Stand ready. The Vrax fleet opened fire at maximum range. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the fleets. The Allied ships scattered according to Vale's directions, moving in patterns that seemed random, but positioned each vessel perfectly to minimize incoming fire. The Valkyrie accelerated forward, drawing the attention of dozens of Vrax ships. They concentrated fire on it, pouring enough energy to destroy a planet. The shields held, adapting and strengthening with each impact. Return fire, precision strikes only, Daniel ordered. Target their command ships first. The Valkyrie's weapons lanced out with impossible accuracy. Each shot traveled across thousands of kilometers to hit exactly where Vale calculated. Vrak's command ships lost communications. Coordination ships went dark. Within minutes, the enemy fleet's organization began to break down. Allied ships pressed the advantage. Using Vale's guidance, they struck at weak points in the Vrak's formations. The upgraded shields held against attacks that would have destroyed them before. Better engines let them maneuver faster than the Vraks expected, but the Vraks had numbers. For every ship they lost, they had 2 more to take its place. Allied vessels began taking damage despite Vale's coordination. Ships exploded. Crews died. The casualty count climbed. Daniel watched the displays with growing concern. They were winning, but the cost was terrible. Vale, we need to end this faster. What are our options? I can target all Vrak's vessels simultaneously, disable their weapons and engines without destroying them. However, this will require the Valkyrie to move to the center of their formation. We will be surrounded and taking fire from all directions for approximately 45 seconds. Our shields will hold, but there is an 11% chance of catastrophic failure. Do it. The Valkyrie accelerated to speeds that should have torn it apart. It drove straight into the heart of the Vrak's fleet like a knife through flesh. Enemy ships tried to track it, but it moved too fast. It reached the center of their formation and stopped. 300 Virax warships surrounded it and fired everything they had. The space around the Valkyrie turned white with energy. Sensors overloaded trying to measure the power being thrown at a single target. Inside the ship, the crew felt the shield strain. Power fluctuated. Systems